This question is from Emer. How can I be in alignment for abundance when I've limiting beliefs and a negative mindset and ego running the show? Wow, Emer, that's a big question. So, on these big questions, I'm always trying to think, okay, what's the best way to answer this one? What comes to mind on your question is a few different things. The first thing, and again, it might, this all might sound simple, but many times simple is what works. What I found, and what I teach my students, but what I found true for me when I was really going from being stressed out about money all the time and never having enough and working really hard, but month to month, and money was just always a crisis. And I never thought at that time whether I had a positive mindset or a negative mindset. I don't even know if mindset was a thing back when I started doing this work. But what I found is I found that my, I guess, probably mindset around money all the time was there was never enough and that I was always dissatisfied. So I think the dissatisfaction that it didn't matter if I made more this year than I did last year, it just never felt like enough. And therefore, I was always dissatisfied with the money. And that was probably the energy I was in that stuck with me. And again, I was working hard and I was making great money, but yeah, money always was a problem. And then early on, when I really started doing this work in money, because I was tired of being broke, I was tired of being on the month to month roller coaster, I was tired of my money always controlling my life versus the other way around. I started studying money and I started reading some books and I started listening to tapes back then. Zig Ziglar, one of my, he called it, what he called it, uh, automotive university or something, because back then we had tapes that we put into our cars. And I love that. So I spent time with Zig Ziglar. And one of my favorites was Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor, I think he died just this last year or two, close to 90. But I was listening to Bob Proctor about 20 years ago. And he's just an all time great. If you can ever listen to any of his stuff, I would highly recommend it. But he was, I think I came across Bob Proctor. It was back when the book What the Bleep came out, and that was part of Law of Attraction. And I came across this book and Law of Attraction. I'm like, Law of Attraction? That sounds amazing. So I went pretty deep into that rabbit hole. And I go into many different rabbit holes. That's probably one of the best ones I ever really went into. But Bob Proctor talks so much about mindset and abundance thinking. And I think that early work, and I'd listen to Bob Proctor in my car. And I just put those tapes on and tapes on. And I think a little bit through, osmosis, I finally started changing how I thought and felt about money. But one of the things he taught me early on was this exercise of gratitude. And we've heard gratitude and how important it is. But when it comes to money, one of his suggestions was focus on what's there and you're grateful for versus focusing on what's not there and what you're dissatisfied about. And that was a big game changer for me. And so my exercise was every day was to look at what I was grateful for that money bought me. And money bought me electricity to for my house. Money bought me my apartment at the time. Money bought me the ability to drive my car so I could sell real estate. Money bought me food on the table. So I started looking at, even though it didn't feel like a lot of money, I was able to move from this feeling of never enough to a feeling like, wow, I'm so grateful for the money that paid for the rent, the utilities, the car, and the groceries. And I'm so grateful that I have all this. So that was this biggest shift, was getting out of dissatisfaction to gratitude. So that might be one place to start. And it's something now that I teach my students. It's a little bit more elevated example of that. But it's the exercise is because my students, they go through this, their exercise is to look at all the money coming into their bank account and all the money coming out in like this 30-day cycle in this case. And so what I coach them to do is now when you're getting into your books and looking at all your money versus just paying your bills and doing that piece, I want you to look at every dollar that came in and say, thank you, money. Thanks for dropping into my bank account. And to actually feel that the real thanks. Because to think that whatever money we have, the great that it does for our lives, that it does put over a roof over our head, it does pay for the lights and so on and so forth. And it sounds so basic, but I promise you, just changing that, you'll start to see these shifts in mindset. Another thing when it comes to mindset that came from Bob Proctor that was so novel back then, 20 years ago, now we hear more and more, so it's not so woo, basically, but back then it seemed pretty woo, and that's this idea of money and frequent, or kind of thoughts and frequencies, feelings and frequencies. So low frequencies, as we know, that words have a vibration and feelings have a vibration. And so when we are in place of fear, fear is a feeling of low vibration. So we have fear about money, that's low vibration. When we have anger and upset or guilt or shame, these are all very low vibrations. And so when we feel these things, in this case, when we feel guilt about money, shame about money, fear about money, ignorance about money, lack of confidence about money, dissatisfaction about money, anger, conflict, we get stuck in this really low vibration, and that then trickles out and ripples out, that doesn't bring back in anything more than that. So just like all emotions, that the higher the vibration, the better the feeling, the better the experience in life in general. Money's the same. So part of the exercise, if we believe that to be true, we want to move from low vibration words like money, there's never enough, and money doesn't grow on trees, and money's for those people, not for me. Like all these kind of feelings and and words that we use, I can't afford it. These are all low vibration. So if we can start moving up the frequency chart and move to this place of gratitude, gratitude is one of the highest frequencies. To move to a place of love, love is one of the highest frequencies. To move to a place of abundance and creativity, these are all high frequency vibrations. So we need to, it starts with our heart and how we feel. We need to start feeling these ways. That's why those exercises can help us get out of these low vibrations to high, feeling grateful for our money. And what I also do with my students is to have them what I call the exercise of love their money. And I have them write this letter to money, and to write this letter of how you really feel about money. And the first part of the exercise is just be honest. And people will say things like, I have a love-hate relationship with you. I love you because you pay the bills, but I hate you because you always seem to disappear, or whatever this case is. So at the beginning of the course, they write their letter to money, and usually there's a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, all these sorts of, let's say, low vibration feelings. Then at the end of the course, I have them write the letter again, and at the end of the course, they now love their money. So they've gone through these 12 weeks of changing their relationship with money. But now they're writing, oh my God, money, I love you. You're just so good to me. Somehow, there's always tends to be enough. Somehow, you always come in and save the day. Somehow, somehow. So that's part of this exercise, is just to get this place where you love your money and you value your money and you value yourself for making the money. So that's tip two, is first is to create that gratitude exercise. Two is to really fall in love with your money. You might write that letter to money to see what comes out. It's very cathartic. And then probably the final piece when it comes to money is another exercise that you can do. I like to give you exercises, things you can go take away and do. But it's to understand that we are programmed from our parents and from our culture. So you were saying the same things to your kids that your parents said to you, more than likely. The same things come out of your mouth that as a little kid, your little listening ears, the things that took in what your parents were saying. So we have the same money mindset as our parents and our family and our peers and culture. So another exercise we can do is write down all the things that your parents said. Write down all the things your parents did with money. Sometimes it's like, hey, they wouldn't give you allowance, or they wouldn't give you money. What did they tell you? And an exercise, write all these things down on a piece of paper, and then just look at them. And all you have to do is say, those aren't mine anymore. I let those go. And you reinvent your own money beliefs. Like money does grow in trees. I always have enough. Money is easy. Money is great. I appreciate money. Money comes easy to me. Uh, you just replace all of the old things that are have been in your body that you adopted basically, and you replace them with new things. And these are the exercises that can start to change your money mindset. And then with that, part of ego work is something that we're kind of always working on, and that's certainly not my area of expertise. But part of the letting go of the ego, kind of ego, there's a good side of ego that drives us. But the ego financially that gets us into trouble is the comparison game. It means that we're buying stuff to be liked or received well by the people out there, by families, by friends, by peers, by our coworkers, is that we're buying a life in order to fit in order to get external approval. So that's usually what I call the labels. So, we buy the Lululemon label as opposed to the Target label because we want to look good to our friends and we want to fit in because everybody else is wearing Lululemon, even though it might be the same manufacturer, just with a different label. So when we're looking that we're buying labels because it causes us to people to notice us for that label, that's a place to look at some of our ego work when it comes to finances because it means we have something that we don't feel confident or we don't feel good enough on our own for who we are, so we have to buy things to try to get that feeling from these external places. All right, so hopefully that was helpful, and I'll sum that up by saying money mindset is a journey, and the first step is basically just telling yourself you want to change it. And once you decide you want to change your mindset, you will start to do the things that will move you from this place of scarcity to a place of abundance.